Simmons, they cleared out ball. Tapping his way in. Spins on Gallinari. Gives it up. Oh, he was right there. And a foul as Thibault goes to the basket. Boy, Simmons, uncontested, had a layup, but he leaves it for Thibault. Makes something out of it and is headed to the line.
Well, but that's when you know that the game is in your head. That's a dunk for Ben Simmons right there. You got it, and I know you got it to Thibault. You got the free throws, but Ben Simmons, you got to shoot that shot. Be confident.
All right, that's inbound Jeff Green. Gets it into Durant. Here is Durant moving on Tucker. He turns, he shoots. 1
Gathers his feet. The question is, was his toe on the line? And it looks like from that angle, it was on the line. Still a beautiful.
Doc, do you think Ben Simmons can still be a point guard for a championship team like the one you guys want to become?
Yeah, David, I don't know that question or the answer to that right now. So I don't know the answer to that.
Ben Simmons met with Sixers medical professionals and Coach Doc Rivers today. He informed them he's not mentally ready to play to his expectations now. Sources telling ESPN he also talked to his teammates today.
Man, if you were in my position, it would be easy for someone to say, well, why don't you just get vaccinated, but you're not. And that's just the reality of it. And I've made my decision already and I'm standing on it.
We're not healthy. There's a lot of inconsistency for whatever reason. Injuries, COVID, whatever you want to call it. But it's frustrating. I think everybody in this organization is frustrated because we are better than what our record is, and we should be, on the way up. So that's all it is. I don't know about the reports. If you didn't hear from me, I don't talk to nobody. I have an agent. If you don't hear from me, then it's reports. So, I'm frustrated because I want to win, and I'm a competitor. It's pretty simple. Thanks.
Harden and Millsap going to the Sixers. Ben Simmons, Seth Curry, Andre Drummond, and picks going Brooklyn's way. So how did this all shake out, Chris?
Well, here we are. James Harden has been traded to the Philadelphia 76ers for Ben Simmons. Now, I've already talked about how this trade affects both teams, but now we're left with massive questions. What if KD didn't have his foot on the line? What if Kyrie was healthy? Trust me, as a Bucks fan, I've heard it plenty about that 7-game series. But also, outside of the playoffs. What if Harden could actually play team ball? What if Kyrie tried talking to Harden before the trade? What if the Nets had a deeper bench? And is this the death of super teams? Here's what we've learned from the 2021 Brooklyn Nets team. The last question is what I really want to focus on. The Nets team is a perfect illustration of the trends with teams that I've talked about on this channel many times. The big three has become the big warning sign. Let's break these points down one by one, starting with the beard himself that broke the NBA internet on trade day.
For James Harden, the Spurs give another one away. That's their 5th.
James Harden has been known for his ISO game. Most would even say he's the ISO king. Harden himself has spoken about his own success in an ISO position, except only when the ISO is around him. And this is where the problem comes in. Harden, like many NBA players nowadays, expect a team built around them. In reality, everyone and their mom knows that KD is the first option on that Nets team. The team is going to go through Kevin Durant, the man nearly dropping 50 every night. But according to reports, quote, Brooklyn coaches noticed Harden would roll his eyes when an after timeout play was designed for Durant, end quote. But wait a minute, this sounds familiar. A big three with Harden, Durant, and another superstar, they get no championships because of Harden's inability to play around others? Where have I seen that before?
Weird.
James Harden has a history of this problem, with OKC playing mostly ISO through KD and Harden, and the Rockets being almost only Harden ISO. Harden saw success, but anytime he was challenged, it felt like nuclear war. The Thunder and Rockets both had to have Harden adjust around either KD or Westbrook, and got resistance to both. How the Nets front office didn't see this coming, I have no idea.
Fast track into, getting used to each other, but I'm excited. I think everybody got what they wanted.
Continuing from the last point, I've talked many times how team chemistry has become less and less important the last few years. About a week before the start of the season, Sportskeeda also released an article stating the 5 NBA teams that could face team chemistry issues at the start of the season. The 2 teams at the top of the list, the Los Angeles Lakers and the Brooklyn Nets. While writing a script for this video, Jimmy High Roller, who I'm sure y'all all know, also made a video in which he said something I can't put into words any better than he has, saying, quote, "After watching this trio go to 4 straight NBA finals, GMs and players around the league caught the super team bug. Forget chemistry, forget salary caps. Let's chase the best players and get them to sign with us by any means necessary, even if it destroys the future of our franchise for the next decade." End quote. For the past few years, so many NBA teams have tried to create an unstoppable roster with multiple All-Stars. Except, like any experiment, with many attempts comes many failures as well. Just including the ones after the Miami Big Three, there's 2017 OKC, 2011 Clippers, 2012 Lakers, 2013 Nets, and so on. Now this year, we have the Lakers and the Nets. Inversely, teams like the Bucks with Giannis, Middleton, and Drew, or the Suns with Ayton, CP3, and Booker, both made it to the NBA Finals last year. And I know many will say it's due to injuries, but pick any playoff team from that year. Jazz, Grizzlies, Clippers, Mavericks, Nuggets, Blazers, 76ers, Hawks. What do all these teams have in common? They all have about 2 All-Stars max, and they all know how to play together. Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell, Ja Morant, Kawhi and Paul George, Luka, Jamal Murray and Jokic, Dame and CJ, Joel Embiid, Trae Young. Teams need role players, not an all MVP starting 5. Again, look at the Lakers. Picking up Westbrook was the worst decision they could have made. I'm not the first person to make this argument, and I won't be the last, but spacing. AD, Braun, and Westbrook's games all consist in the paint. Their play styles simply don't mesh. And the same can be said about Harden and KD. And that's just on-court chemistry. Sometimes we forget that NBA players are people as well. And just like normal people, every now and then, they may not like their coworkers. Once again, we can go back to Harden, disrespecting Nash and KD, as well as being turned off by Kyrie's playing part-time. But rather than Kyrie encouraging Harden to stay for the long haul, Kyrie in fact helped push Harden away. Compare that to the Bucks, where Giannis is constantly saying Middleton is the better player and Middleton is saying the reverse, keeping the humbleness and friendliness going for the team. If players don't get along well enough off the court, they won't work on the court either.
Holding that right shin and banging the court.
Another problem with creating a team like the Nets is bench depth. Like the Jimmy quote says, teams think, let's chase the best players and let's get them to sign with us by any means necessary, even if it destroys the future of a franchise for the next decade. When creating super teams, teams put all their eggs in one basket. Think about everything the Nets had to give away for Harden and how it's turned out. Giving up away Jared Allen, who is now an all-star, as well as many draft picks. Now, you only have KD and Kyrie. The biggest argument for the Nets-Bucks playoff series as well, besides KD's foot size, is, well, if they were all healthy, ... Well, at the end of the day, they weren't, and it's a what if. But it goes to illustrate the point I'm making. With Harden out and Kyrie out, the team is essentially only KD. And while KD can play with this added responsibility, dropping 48 points in a Game 7, it should go without saying that obviously it's more difficult. Now, KD is also out, and the Nets are losing to teams like the Kings. While they've made great moves to improve this, like picking up Patty Mills in the offseason, it's still a problem every super team is going to have. It's either your star players or no one. Of the 126 games, the Nets' big three only played together for 16. In those 16, they went 13-3, which I'm sure you've heard before. But with KD out, Kyrie part-time, and Harden now traded, the Nets now sit barely above a 500 team at 30-27.
Just an agonizing delay here to get to the finish line.
On top of everything I've said before, these past seasons have truly shown the power that the players hold. Many times on this channel, I've talked about the decline of GMs and the increase in players' power. Now, we have blockbuster headlines as proof. Harden complains about being in Brooklyn, and the Nets panic trade him. Ben Simmons sits out for an entire season, and the 76ers try frantically to obtain another player for him, even if they make the dumb decisions declining trade offers. And John Wall as well has a mutual understanding in Houston, being told he won't play and him not wanting to play, and thus is included in trade talks that never come to fruition. Now, if a player wants off a team, all they have to simply do is not play. Or the inverse, which we've discussed before with LeBron. If you're so good and valuable to a franchise, you can threaten to leave in order to get what you want gone or who you want with you. And I have a feeling it's only going to get worse from here, with this new precedent being set. While everyone thought the Nets were the ones to win it all for multiple years, the Nets did a lot of things right and wrong. And now we're only left wondering how things could have been, and if James Harden could have had his first ring in Brooklyn. Instead, the Brooklyn team may be the final straw on the camel for the decline and the eventual death of today's NBA super teams.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now.